This is a 1 minute heads up. Oh, you have hand tracking. You must have a leap motion.
Actually, like this program does it with just the camera. It'll do the hand tracking just off of the camera alone. So I was kind of happy to find that, but it's kind of weird. Like the hands seem really big and out in front of me, even if I hold them close. And if I do something like pick up a mug of coffee and it does weird gestures.
Oh,
So
interesting. That's cool that
don't
they
trust the hands.
don't trust the hands. All right, we are at 8:09. Arturo, is that where you want your camera angle to be? Your head in the frame for the recording. Your head is kind of a little low. Just move it down. There you go. Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and thank you everyone who is watching or listening for attending. My name is Kit. I am a product manager and community manager here at Straico, and joining me as co-host today is one of our co-founders, Arturo, and of course our guests for today are Riley and Jay Rinaldi. And I'll pass it off to Arturo for opening.
Thanks, Keith, and thanks everyone that has joined the AMA, and of course, thanks a lot to Riley, to Jay Rinaldi. I know that you guys were like a little bit resistant to being on a live AMA, so that's why we are so grateful for having you here with all your knowledge. And as Keith mentioned earlier, we have prepared some questions for you, but the main idea is to have fun, to to show the community that we are real people, or half both half real people, and that we are here for helping each other and to keep building our community. So I'm really happy to be here.
Why don't we start by offering our guests a chance to introduce themselves? Riley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I wasn't expecting. Hi, I'm Riley, Robo Riley, and I have a interest in automation and particularly using AI tools to help facilitate automation. I do a lot of work in ed tech kind of areas. I've got a day job in that kind of field, and then a little startup company that does some similar kinds of work.
And Jay Rinaldi, did you want to introduce yourself? Thank you, Riley.
Uh, Hello, I'm Jay Rinaldi, and I work as a software engineer, and mainly I use AI to for my work. So I try to program with AI, and then I also use it for home automation and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, my first question is for Riley, and I guess I'm coming out swinging because I chose a doozy of a question. So, you have a desire for technology to advance forward, such as options for better chunking options for our RAG and multimodal capabilities to demonstrate understanding and the technological needs for data management and retrieval. So, what has your experience been like so far with the alpha RAG testing?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think that the alpha RAG system is really, quite robust at this point, and very usable. Like I could deploy it pretty well. The flexibility that's come in and the enhanced uh, embedding models, I think, are making a substantial difference. I have not gotten to test the brand new, just announced today, innovations in the API, but I can say my experience is like first of all, like with an API, you need a ton of stability, especially if you're using it for automations, right? It's got to respond every single time. It can't be timing out. If you're going to iterate 100 or 150 times on it, you don't ever want it to fail to respond. I mean, you build some error checking in, but ideally it's not doing that. And the Straico API in general has just been fantastic for that. Um, I think as with everything that's going on in AI and RAG, there's still, forward progress to make, like developments and improvements. But I can, especially, on the back of an automation platform like RoboMotion or Zero Work or Active Pieces, I can deploy that RAG API exactly as it stands to do a ton of work that I could not do without it.
That's really great to hear. Arturo, what do you think of Riley's feedback on the API?
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. Riley contribution, it's been fundamental to develop our agents rack API. And to be honest, some of his ideas we are implementing them, and I like where the rack API is heading, but I don't know. Maybe this is also a question for Riley and Jay Rinaldi, and we haven't received the traction in the alpha test group that we were expecting, because from my point of view, we have a lot of people that is using our API right now. I mean the prompt completion endpoint. We thought that implementing these RAG capabilities will allow all these people that is using our API to give a stronger context to the LLM. And really, we haven't seen that many interest. So it's because it's too technical. Maybe we haven't being able to teach our users that is already using the API that if they switch for this new endpoint, they will be able to have big knowledge information that can be accessed in a very efficient way using our RAG techniques. So I don't know if this is the reason, or what you guys think about that.
I can start off on this, and maybe Jay Rinaldi's got some thoughts too.
Okay.
Um, uh, there may be some existing limitations that are a bit of an impediment um, for folks, like being stuck with PDF and not doing like docx and being able to submit websites. And I know you all are working on that and have some plans in that regard. Um, but I think maybe like it's about kind of understanding what the use cases are. And I think that uh, there's a fantastic set of features that are in the RAG system now. And now the question is like, can people envision how they use those in particular use cases? And so, like for example, one of the things that I've used RAG for is to build a data set that has all the answers to common questions that are sent by email. And then I can query that agent to write email responses based upon the data that's in that RAG database. And in the automation, it can save them into a draft email. We don't ever send the emails without human engagement. It's always just saved as a draft in the automation, and that's a use case that's really helpful for me and for some other people that I work with. And I know that when trying to I'm sorry, my brain is just a little fried. I didn't sleep much last night watching the election results. But the when the local RAG system was built, I mean, JSOL was building that, if I recall correctly. I'm sorry, I can't. It's a little fried. One of the things that it was built to kind of help do was to with academic research, and you could upload a ton of articles to it, and then you could query them to help you with academic research. That's a use case for RAG. So I think that's kind of the thing, is like bringing people in terms of use cases, maybe some pre-built agents that they just need to attach their RAG to that articulates that use case for them. But if people are already using the existing API, the RAG API is no more technical or difficult than the simple completion API. And it's great you all are building a web UI for it too, which I think is going to make a big difference.
Thanks a lot, Riley. I agree with you that having specific use cases could be really helpful. And because you have seen in the alpha group that we are asking for your use cases, but maybe we should like propose our own use cases based on our users need that we already know some of them, all around customer support, content marketing, for coding, and like to build predefined agents which are specific for that works specifically for use cases. And I think that's a pretty good idea. Rodrigo is also here in our AMA, so he's in charge of this project. So that's a pretty cool idea. Thanks, Riley. I don't know if Jay Reinaldi, you have
Yeah.
something else to add.
I think I think maybe use the users don't know that the feature exists, or they don't know how to use it yet. So maybe um I'm thinking that at, we should have it first on the web UI, so they can easily interact with it, like chat completions.
That's also
Other than that,
a good idea to allow users to test the rack capabilities directly on our UI, and once they understand what they can do, then maybe they can start automating stuff with this new
yeah.
endpoint. And Keith here has done a great job launching her MVP, which is also cool. And for example, I know that Franz that is here in our AMA, he's been trying to use the MVP that Keith built. So it's cool because yes, people want to understand what does this do. So it's cool.
I definitely agree that there's an education piece here, like to educate users that one, the feature exists, it's in testing, here's how you use it. Two, us understanding what the use cases are and building example agents based on those use cases to demonstrate straightforward to users not only how do you create them, but this is something that you can interact with. And I did build that test suite of tools, as unintuitive as the user interface is, to help people in a non-code way interact with the API and at least allow you to chat with agents. But whatever the final UI looks like will not look like that tool. That is very much like just a test tool. I do have a question prepped here for Jay Rinaldi. So, um,
Well,
uh, you've explored AI, the use of AI for various tasks, such as document parsing with LangChain, the Olama proxy, and you've also done automation in your own home using Straico. Can you give us some insight into your keen interests in AI technology and how you've used Straico in these automations?
um, so for the automations, I just when you have a smart home, you just see what can be. You just have an idea and then you just do it. So for using Strico, I just use it to summarize the information that's given to me. So sometimes I ask it for weather, like weather summary. So uh, when I get out of the shower, it will just eventually tell me that, hey, the weather today is rainy and you should wear light jacket and something like that. And then I also have it for because I'm trying to learn Japanese. So every randomly it will switch the notification, so it could be English, and then the next time the same notification would be Japanese. So I also use Draco to translate the notifications. So sometimes it will be like the laundry is finished, you should get it now, and then sometimes it will be in Japanese, and I wouldn't get it. And then uh, what's the question again?
Well,
Sorry.
the question was just to get insight into how you use Straico in your automation, and I kind of wanted to dig out kind of uh,
Yes.
what your use case is at home for. So, like your laundry, as you say, translating to help you learn another language, just kind of to get an idea
Yeah.
of how your home automation and AI kind of converge in the real world.
Okay. And then also sometimes I also tried to parse like because in my office I'm near a, s- a football stadium and a concert hall, so every so often there will be many people, and then I wanted to get the schedule for the concert and also the football game so that I could avoid all those people. So I tried parsing it using the first I tried parsing it using Straico. So I get the I get the web URL, and then I asked Straico to please get all the events for this web page, and then I asked it if we can get the what will be the best time for me to go to work so I can avoid all of those people.
Is there an automation approach that you haven't done that you're kind of like daydreaming about, or something you'd wish that you would work on in the future?
Uh, yes, I'm still trying to get this data because in Japan we usually just go to everywhere using trains. So I want to get the train schedule, and then uh, because there are times that the train is off by an hour or 5 minutes. It rarely happens, but in those cases, I wanted to notify me that hey, the train is delayed for 5 minutes, so maybe you should go to work earlier.
So it will help you kind of optimize your day.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm still I'm still trying to get the data, but I haven't found it yet.
Arturo, did you have any follow up questions for our guests?
Um, yes, I have many, but I will try to ask the more that the ones that I have been thinking more about that. So, for example, I know that both Jay Rinaldi and Riley have interact with a lot of LLMs. I know we have talked about coding, specialized LLMs, reasoning LLMs. You know all the LLMs we have right now. But I was thinking about, do you guys think that in the coming future, open source LLMs will be able to compete with these state of the art closed source LLMs? Because we have seen interesting LLMs such as NVIDIA Nemotron. That it's a fine tuned version of Llama 3.1 that for example, for me, it's really useful and kind of outperforms GPT-4o and 3.5 Sonnet in some specific task. So I was wondering, do you guys think that open source LLMs will be able to keep up with closed source LLMs, or do you think that this gap between closed and open source LLMs will become bigger?
Um, I think the open source ones will eventually catch up. We've seen this in Llama 3.2, 3.1, and then but it might be difficult to run them in the local network or home settings because when you run the lower versions like the 8G 8B Llama 8B, uh, the response is not that great compared to the bigger models like 70B model.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And I have another question for you, Jay Rinaldi. Uh, how big is the difference between these local LLMs that you can deploy on your computer compared with the ones you cannot? I know there is quite a difference, but do you think that for small tasks such as, I don't know, proofreading your text, maybe translating some text, do you think that these local LLMs are enough or not?
For small task, yes, it will be good enough that you will be able to run them, but depending on your hardware, it might be slow, like the words per second might be one per 10 seconds or something like that. It will really depend on your hardware and also mm, that's it. It will
Okay,
depend on your hardware and also your use case.
Can I
okay,
add a
okay.
thought?
Like okay,
Uh,
Yes, of course. Go
so
ahead.
my thought here is that it is task dependent. And I think that a lot of models in the future for specific tasks might become hyper tuned small models, because if you're just doing the same repetitive task over and over and it's a very limited knowledge set, either you're going to use an agent with, a rag database of knowledge and you're going to send it to the cloud and that's what you're doing with it, or you're going to tune a local model, that runs on device. But I think that that's very specific for, things that are either repetitive or things that have a small knowledge base. um, I still think that there's room for these larger models in the cloud, and especially with how powerful cloud hardware is, it can outperform a lot of local hardware.
Yeah, I really think that's right, and I think like the answer in some regards was already in the question that you asked initially, Arturo, for very specific tasks, right? A fine tune, and so you can take that large model and really fine tune it down to something smaller for a very specific task, and we've seen a proliferation of those on Hugging Face, and I think that that's the kind of thing that the open sources are going to be super useful for. I have seen some stuff, and this is way above like my level of expertise, but I have seen some stuff that there's some research about changing the fundamental math that's used in LLMs so that they are significantly less resource hungry, that they would consume less electricity, but also need a lot less processing power to function. And like I said, I don't. I've read a couple of articles about that, and it's about like floating points and integers and this kind of stuff. And like I said, it's above my level of expertise. But it does seem that one of the things we're seeing happen in LLM development now is a move towards efficiency. And that move towards efficiency will probably mean that you can get more performance out of the same hardware. And I think that's really promising. But I think with something like editing text or revising text, it's such a huge, like it requires such a big model, you know, to be able to throw any text at it and have it do revisions and edits and so on. But I think like one of the things is like the easier it gets to fine tune a model, the more that people will start doing that for specific tasks and then sharing them openly with other people. And I think that's going to be what the open source models are good for. But at the end of the day, like I don't think anything touches Sonnet 3.5 right now for a lot of tasks, including coding. I find it's even better a lot of times than O1 Preview at coding. And the other thing the fine tunes will give us is less latency. Latency is a huge problem with LLMs. It just takes so long to get a response, even in a relatively fast one. If you're running an automation, you're talking about each step you want it to take a second or less, in that automation. Because and an LLM can be a 30-second or 60-second delay in there. And I think that's the other thing that we might get on the fine tunes is a lot less latency in very specific tasks.
So I have a question for both our guests. We take a thoughtful approach when we're exploring new technologies, and we weight optimism against, red flags of a technology startup. When you integrate something into your workflow. Riley and I, we had the discussion about Beacon AI and API table back, a couple months ago. This is where this question came from. So when, new technology comes onto the scene, what do both of you do to kind of scrutinize or evaluate technology before you decide to adopt it?
That's a great question. Obviously where we can reviews and buying something that doesn't have reviews is always dubious. Bika was a real leap of faith for me. And I can get a little obsessive about this kind of stuff. Like I'm Googling the founders, I'm like looking at what other companies they're in. In the case of like Bika, I was like looking at the corporate or not corporate, but the company public documents that were in Japanese, and then using AI to translate them over in order to trace down that this person is also the CEO of that thing, and all the or Chinese, sorry, and so there's a lot of that kind of stuff in place, and time and place, reviews, previous projects by the founders. You know, I think those are pretty typical AppSumo. If you're looking at something like an AppSumo or another, lifetime deal that we're kind of looking for. Like one of the nice things about Aw Sheets is that the person had done other projects that were successful before it, as well. And so those are some of the things. The other thing is there's got to be a free version I can test a lot of times, like make sure it's basically functional before I throw money at it. But some of this stuff's moving so fast, and the spaces, like the video creation stuff is crazy. It's so hard to
Oh,
keep up. It seems like new companies are popping up, and new apps, and it's still pretty nascent. And man, I'd have a hard time investing a lot in any one video creation tool. So one of the reasons I love Straico, right, is I don't have to invest in any one LLM or any one company. I've just invested in Straico, and you all will throw everything at me, or at least all the good stuff.
oh, I'm laughing because I've been doing recently is researching text to video and researching APIs for text to video, and kind of evaluating the outputs for them. And so I'm like right in the thick of that nascent space right now in kind of in my head in research. So you hit the nail on the head. It's changing so fast that we start looking at like runway and minimax, and we're looking at Pika, and like there's just so many players, and then something else will come out, and like now it's pay attention to Kling, and it's like holy shit, like it just evolves so quickly.
They all evolve so quickly, except for Sora, because we haven't seen Sora yet.
No, we haven't seen Sora yet. No, it's been almost a year
Yeah,
since that was revealed, like that reveal video. Is it okay if I move on to my next prepared question?
yeah, sure, Keith. Or
Yes.
I don't know if Rodrigo is here because Rodrigo wrote me via DM. He told me that he would like to talk about the agents and rack project based on what Riley, you and I talked at the beginning of the AMA. I don't know, Rodri, if you wanna talk right now.
Yeah, yes, sure. Thanks, Arturo. Yeah, I was listening to your comments about Rack and the Rack project, and okay, as you have seen before, we have done some upgrades to the API. We have, I mean, the development team of this API has learned about a lot about the uh, features that we or parameters that you can set in the rack basis and how to make some prompts on the rack basis. But uh, yes, maybe the most recent upgrades have been. Uh, I mean, they have we have put lots of new parameters there, like for creating the rack base itself, new parameters, so we can have like different methods to create the rack base based on the files format or content. And most recently, we have even um, put some additional parameters so the prompt responses are customized based on the, for example, the number of reference that you put as citations there, and so how to build the response. I think that you know knowing about these parameters is okay. It's great because we can have more of the potential of rack, even more than just putting a big or very large files as context at a relatively low cost compared to the like the traditional methods. But in some I mean, what I think that could work in the future, so not so technical users can have some benefit from rack, is that, well, we have a lot of parameters, but somehow I think that we could say those users, okay, you can upload like these rack bases, but we can suggest you some default configurations. I mean, this is like, okay, maybe if you want to upload like academic papers, you can use this configuration. If you want to put like a book, you can put this configuration. If you want to put like some kind of files, you can use, but it's not like saying, okay, just try and set the parameters by yourself, but to say, okay, this is like, use this configuration for this type of documents. And in this way, I think that we could maybe give a better solution for a more understandable solution for final users. But in order to get that, I think that we also have to learn actually which the optimal parameters for each case, because this is something that I try to find some documentation about that particular, like, okay, which is better for this kind of tokens, and I haven't been able to find like a precise answer on the online. So in this case, if we have like more trial from the user or the testers, I think we can have a better idea of how what to recommend to final users to get benefits from it. So yeah, thanks for all of those that have made suggestions. It has really made a difference to make us understand better how to make better use of RAG.
Thanks a lot, Rodri. Yes, I agree that we should like have default rack configuration for specific use cases as the one you mentioned, and this is also aligned with Riley's advices. So that's great. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thanks, Keith. Go ahead with your next question, please.
Perfect. So, we've had a rapid cycle of feedback, implementation, development in parallel with privacy discussions. Specifically, there were privacy discussions a couple weeks back about the API, including HTTP request block, information privacy, information deletion. Do our guests have any kind of insight into that?
Well, I mean, I was happy to see I couldn't access the RAG file directly off of the Amazon link after I created the RAG database. That kind of stuff's really important. Obviously, if you're using this in a business, oftentimes you've got information you don't kind of want to publicly share or distribute. Um, I mean, HTTPS is great, and it's nice that we've got that encoding that's happening for URL encoded completions or requests that are going through. Um, you know, I I don't. We deal with some sensitive information sometimes. We're pretty hesitant to put that into most LLMs for a lot of reasons. But I think that, from my point of view, there's an awful lot of privacy vulnerability or exposure at the end provider's end of it, right? So if you're sending something to Grok or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and I have a lot more concern about that most of the time than anything. On Straico's side, it's about privacy of the data in the databases, encryption of the stuff that's at rest and in transit, and so forth, and being able to have user control of data, like deletion of the little brief contexts that go along with the transaction records and stuff like that. I mean, I do think this is going to be a continuing problem. I think that even when we have statements that data is not being retained and they're not being trained on it, which is one of the advantages of using the APIs for many of these models, is that they don't retain or train on stuff that comes in from the API the same way they do the stuff that comes in, especially from their free web UI. It's nice to be able to do that, but I think we have as yet to really robustly test whether any of the endpoint providers, Anthropic or OpenAI or whatnot, are actually adhering to any of their privacy practices. Um, On the flip side of that, I will say there's some sort of contrary to privacy things that are happening that are really exciting and interesting, and I'd be interested to see kind of move in as options in Straico. I think the memory function that's happened in OpenAI is really interesting, and particularly thinking about attaching memory to a custom GPT is a really interesting kind of innovation, but very contrary to privacy. If you've seen the things that people who have memory turned on with OpenAI can do in ChatGPT, it's almost frightening how much it remembers and understands and returns back about end users. I'm happy to not be using memory day to day. Uh, yeah.
Jay Rinaldi,
Um, for yeah, for me, I'm very hesitant about uploading stuff like images or documents on in Strico. Um, Sometimes when I don't really know or if there's a document somewhere that you state your privacy. Like when you delete something, is it really deleted or just hidden? Because when sometimes I copy paste the S3 URL and then I delete the image that I upload in the web UI, and then after a month, it's still not deleted. So I'm really not uploading anything sensitive or personal in in the Strico user interface for now. And this is my concern also for using the API.
and I remember that there was quite a detailed discussion a few weeks back about the API and privacy that happened, I believe, in our feedback channel in our Discord.
Yes.
And that's where that
Yeah.
question, yes, that is the genesis of that question. So thank you for your
Yeah.
insight. Arturo, did you want to add anything?
Yes, right now, after discussing this with Riley, that he enlightened us to fix some stuff in our API, but right now we aren't storing anything about the prompt or the output of each API request in the text endpoint. I'm going to check with Juan or Jay Rinaldi what you are telling us about the image storage, because we should also delete these images after a bit. We do have our security and data privacy webpage. I will share it with you, but it's kind of outdated, and we really have to update this about the recent changes we have done. And just to be sure, this is something we are really really into it, because we know that our users, and this is something we have learned through all our experience building a Straico, that users are really interested in privacy and data safety. So we are trying to, as well as we are doing it with the product, like to iterating, launching new features, fixing bugs. It's the same on this end. We are trying to each month improve something about data, about privacy, learning what's going on. And but of course, this is something that is pretty important for us. That's why when Riley told us that it makes no sense for us to store the information about the prompt or the output of the API calls, that that's why we decide to act quickly, because we know that this is important.
Thank you, Arturo. I don't know how we're doing here for time. So my next question might be my last prepared, because we do have another guest as well making an announcement. So this is for everyone. So your commitment to Straico is very important to us, and your feedback, like incorporating web browsing capability and templates, selecting models from OpenRouter, having proactive thinking about our user experience and our functionality, shows that you have a deep understanding of our product, use cases, and what's best for our users. So if you had a wish list for what went into Straico in the next, say, 3 months, if you were in charge of it, what would you do?
Hmm. Okay. Hmm.
This is me kind of asking what your laundry list of most wanted features, improvements are.
Hmm.
I'll jump in for a second and give Jay Rinaldi
Uh,
a minute with it. I mean, I think in terms of the RAG API, the big one for me is being is twofold: more diverse file types, and I think that that particularly goes into the new chunking methods. Like a CSV file or an XLSX file is probably going to be better using a different chunking method than like a text file or PDF that's text in there. And so I could really deploy those chunking methods more effectively if, and sometimes that's what I'm going to upload is I'm going to upload like a CSV file, and converting that to PDF doesn't always produce the best kind of inputs for it. So I'd love to see more diverse file types in there, and the ability to dynamically add files to a RAG database after it's been created. So, I've got 30 files for a research project. I put them into PDF and send them all up, and then I find some more files right now, right? And we talked about this in the on the discussion boards on Discord a little bit recently. So those are the big ones in terms of the API for me. Being able to delete the text snippets from the transaction records, or delete the transaction records completely. I mean, we don't have to delete the but the text snippets themselves, that'd be a nice privacy feature for me so that I can eliminate the record of what was said in the web UI stuff. When I'm using the Straico web UI, I'm really excited about the new UI, the new web UI, and see how it's functioning and working. And I think that I'm kind of holding back UI suggestions or sort of web UI capabilities until we see the new web UI and get a chance to really kind of thoroughly test it. I know we've got a little bit of a beta for it running right now. The agent stuff is exciting. Being able to chain agents will be cool. I mean, that's not a big wish list for me because I'm kind of doing that in other tools already. But I think for some folks, being able to build kind of a multi-agent flow would be neat. But I don't think, I don't know, would be maybe as high of a priority. I do think the web UI for the RAG will be really cool. And one of the things that got mentioned briefly about that RAG is it will be a pretty significant coin cost savings. I was thinking about, I built out a programming helper that would help with zero work JavaScript. And I had to put a ton of the zero work specific documentation into that prompt initially. And it was really quite expensive to run because every iteration I had to be giving it all of the zero work documentation it needed in order to help me code for that specific platform, because the LLM doesn't know zero work, right? It doesn't know its documentation. And with a RAG database, I can throw that in the RAG and build it from there. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for that. I think it'd be interesting. I don't know, one of the questions I had about that just came up for me in the RAG database in my mind is, if I build a RAG database, can I share the database idea with other people so that, or ID with other people so that they can add it to their agents to use in their APIs or elsewhere. I think that'd be an interesting kind of benefit, be able to build out a RAG database and then let anybody who's using Straico access that RAG database with their agents or queries.
Nice feedback. Yeah, I'm glad that most of the things that you are saying, we are already working on that. But for example, having exchangeable racks through agents looks pretty interesting. That's a good one. Thanks, Riley.
for me, I listed them down. Um, I would like to have image attachment in the API, and then also image generation via API, like Flux, and then speech to text and text to speech via API also, and also the ability to delete files, delete uploaded files in the API. Because I think right now you're able to upload but not delete. I will also and then um, I use Mac, so Mac desktop for, because right now it's only for Windows, and multiple API keys. That's all for me.
I agree with you on multiple API keys. That's actually something I was going to be bringing up this week coming was I find it frustrating that I personally like only have one API key because I'm working on
Mm,
multiple things and it's like no, I want a separate key for everything I'm working on.
yes, me too.
Yes, of course. At first, we were trying people to use the API, but now that people is using the API, we of course need multiple API keys. And thanks for your feedback, Jay Rinaldi. It's pretty specific and it's totally doable. And I think that I agree with you that having all these capabilities in the API it's mandatory, such as having image as input and image as output using Flux Pro. So don't worry, we will get there.
Okay, yes.
Arturo, do we want to invite our other special guest to make the announcement?
Yes, please. Let's do it. I'm sad that I don't own a Mac because it would be pretty nice to be an active user of Alter HQ. And
I
please,
I I
Kim, go ahead.
I have a spare one. I can mail you one. I got a spare one.
Oh, please send it to me, please.
Yeah, thanks. So first, I will introduce myself. I'm the founder of Alter, and I'm super happy to be with you all guys here. Uh, I discovered the Straico community from one of the user of Alter, Serge, and so I'm discovering the community for like 2 weeks ago, and it's super nice to be part of this. Um, so about the announcements, we got some users who were using both Alter and Straico, and I didn't know about Straico at that time, and they told me Alter definitely need to integrate Straico. So Alter is a macOS AI assistant deeply integrated in the ecosystem. So basically, you can chat with any apps on your computer on your macOS. So you can, I don't know, like select files in your Finder and chat with it. You can go to YouTube on your browser and ask for a summary of the YouTube video. So we can do pretty cool things with Alter. It's really kind of the future of what you can do with an AI integrated in the OS system. So you can think about it as like Apple Intelligence, but on steroids because you can create your own actions and so on. So today I'm pretty excited to share that Alter is able to work with your Straico credits. You just need to create an API key in your account and connect Alter with it, and you'll get the experience of Alter using the platform, the Straico platform. One another thing I'm excited about this is last week we created an OpenAI compatible endpoint, so our users are able to use our models and providers on other tools like ClientBot or Novel Crafter. And when you connect Straico to Alter, you can use this OpenAI compatible endpoint to actually use the Straico platform on other tools like the one I cited. So here it is. I know some of your users. I think Franz and Tina here already tried the new version of Alter with the Straico integration. So it works. That's a good thing, and I'm pretty excited to see other users try Alter on Mac.
As a Mac user,
So
I'm totally excited to try it out.
uh, and I'm pretty excited to get your feedback on that.
Cool. I think that Jorge has made an announcement that he will share in the general channel about this integration. Thanks a lot, Samuel. We are also going to promote your integration in our website, which we are revamping right now, and pretty cool to grow the community together. That's nice. Thanks for joining.
That's great. Yes.
You mentioned my laundry basket in the in the post.
Yes, of course I did.
Oh my god. Uh,
Okay, I think that we are right on time to end our AMA. I don't know, how do you would you like to end it?
I was going to invite everyone to say some parting words. I want to thank our guests for coming, and Arturo uh, and our special guest with our announcement. Thank you very much for spending time with us today and having this very in-depth discussion, as well as all of our listeners who have joined in, as we have quite a contingent of the community. There's so many people here. I'm actually going to take a screenshot on my phone of just how many people have shown up. So thank you, everyone, for showing up and supporting this AMA initiative. And I'll pass it off to our guests for some parting words before sending it off to Arturo. So I'll first start with Riley.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, this has been great. I've really appreciated the opportunity to chat and talk about this stuff with you all kind of live rather than just text. And I just want to say, like, I'm in a bunch of Discord channels and I use a lot of different tools. And you all are one of, if not the most responsive dev teams that I have seen working on stuff. You've got a great product and a great tool, but I know it's a really competitive space that you're in right now. But I think like the innovations you're doing really set Straico apart. But more than anything, like you've just got a phenomenal team and you're so responsive to user needs. I know we're just throwing requests at you, oh, just tons of them every day. But the pace at which you work and your kind of receptiveness to them is really, really impressive. And it's one of the things that I think makes me super confident in the future of Straico. So kudos to all of you.
Jay Rinaldi, would you like to give us some parting words?
Thank you for inviting me, and I love using Straico every day. So keep 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 doing what you're doing. It's great. And I also love being here in this community. Uh, I read every day when I wake up. I read the Discord channel, and this is the community that I read every day. So thank you.
And Arturo?
Yeah, thank you both a lot. I have mentioned this before, but for Juan and I, that we decided to found Straico around a year and a half. That we didn't thought that we were going to build this community that is really strong. That we have people all around the globe. We all share the passion about generative AI, and we really know that this is going to change the world as it is. Maybe not at the speed as some of you might think about AGI and all that stuff, but it is changing the world, and we are all on the same boat. We are all passionate about this, and I'm really happy to build this Straco, and I will keep trying to do my best with the team that we have built. That is also pretty amazing, and we are happy that we are going to keep building a Straco day by day.
Thank you for joining, everyone, and thank you for supporting this AMA initiative. It's really been something we've been putting together, only for a couple weeks now. So it's so great to see this AMA initiative really take off and that the community has really embraced it. We're going to have more in the future to announce about future AMAs, so stay tuned for that. This isn't the last one. Thank you again to our guests, and I guess that's a sign off.